edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by Hallie Wilson, Media Supervisor at VML Y&R. Welcome, Hallie.
Hello, thank you.
So I know your title is Connections Media Supervisor. Tell me, what does that all entail at VML Y&R?
Great question. It is a fun way of saying that we have a big department at VML that is called Connections, which really just means that we get to decide strategically where a consumer interacts with the brand. And that could be a live event, that could be an experience where they're kind of immersed in the brand in person. Where I come in is I get to decide where they might see an ad on Facebook or during the Super Bowl or when they're flipping through a magazine or wherever that may be. So that's kind of Connections. And then within Connections is paid media, and there you'll find me.
And I believe before your current role at VML Y&R, you were the Connections Manager. Was it very similar, or what was kind of the difference between the manager and supervisor?
Yeah, great question. Basically, I started entry level and have gotten up to a supervisor. It's always been paid media for me. So entry level is really focused on pulling a lot of data and reporting and helping, a supervisor put together presentations for clients and get everything gathered to make sure that we have great strategies for clients. So now as a supervisor, I kind of have a team that works with me to make sure what I'm presenting to our clients makes sense, is data driven, and all of that good stuff.
How big is that team, or does that vary from day to day?
Yeah, no, another great question. It does vary right now. So the way we kind of do it is by client. So based on the client and kind of what they need from a media perspective is how we decide how big our paid media team is. Right now, my day-to-day team is about 4 people. And then we work with a larger VML team on the client side. So that'll give us like a good 30 people that I can talk to in one day outside of just paid media.
So Hallie, how did you kind of find your niche with media buying, media planning? I mean, was that the plan once you graduated from KU?
That is the $1 million question. It's funny because I did ad club and everything at KU, and I remember everybody that we talked to that was already kind of in their career field was like, you're just going to find your way. Like, you're going to find a job, you're either going to like it or you're not, and your career is just going to happen. I was like, yeah, but like, how do I get that first job? How do we get there? And so here we are 5 years in. It's exactly what happened. You just kind of fall into it. I visited New York a few times with Ad Club. I loved Mindshare, Group M, big media agency. Loved it when I visited. And I said, this media thing, I don't know much about it, but I'm really interested. And so I worked closely with their career outreach team and got offered the job the day after I walked down the hill. And the rest is history. I've loved it, and we're still here.
So you got your job in New York the week after you graduated?
Yeah, literally did the remote interview on Friday, walked the hill on Sunday, 9 a.m. Monday. They said, hey, Hallie, love everything you're about. When can you be here? I was like, can I have a few weeks? And then 3 weeks later, I was in New York.
So what was that leap like? I mean, from Lawrence, Kansas to New York. I mean, did you always have aspirations of working in a big city, or you just wanted to see what it was like?
No, that's exactly it. I've always wanted to live there. Always wanted to be there since I was a little girl. And I didn't get to visit till I was in Ad Club. And luckily, I loved New York even more than I thought I would. And so as soon as I could start applying for jobs, I was like, New York is where I want to go. Let's see what happens. It can be hard to get a job there, but once you know people and have the network set up, which Ad Club helped a ton with, and it's easier to get your foot in the door. So I did, and I loved it. The leap was a lot, but in the best way. Surprisingly, we have some really great networks of J School alums in New York. And so I actually randomly ended up having a really good group of graduates that I knew from the J School. Moving there right away. And one of them actually worked at the same company as me, and he sat in the same row as me at our job, which was amazing. So big leap, but it was awesome.
Now, did you seek out VML Y&R, or did they find you, or how did you coming back to the Midwest? How did that happen?
Yeah, so again with Ad Club, not to toot their horn, but I love Ad Club. Thank goodness for Ad Club. We visited VML a few times when we would do kind of Kansas City ad crawls, and I always just felt like they were wonderful. I mean, they just had great work. The people loved it. It just felt great, and so I knew coming back to Kansas City that I really wanted to be at VML if I could, and it all kind of fell into place. They needed my level on an account, on a media account, and they basically called me one day and said, "Hey, we don't even really need an interview. We like what your resume is about. We really need somebody. We want you. Can you be here?" I said, "All right, let's do it."
And I know you touched earlier about data analytics. Is that something you kind of learned as you've gone along, or is that something you had some good foundation here at KU?
That's a good question. I would say good foundation at KU. There are a lot of tools that we use that certainly you learn on the job, but I had a pretty good understanding from KU that we would be using data, that we would be using consumer data to understand, what kind of media does our consumer interact with? Where do they spend their time? What are they interested in? We use all of that all the time. And so knowing that it was out there was something that KU really prepped me for. As far as like kind of using that data on the job, I certainly learned that the more I've been, on the job. But a lot of data. We love the data.
And I know you've mentioned Ad Club a few times, and what else were you involved in? I think Daily Kansan for a while, and also I think you're involved in your sorority.
Yep. So I did Ad Club, loved Ad Club. I did the Daily Kansan all 4 years. I started the J School because I thought that I wanted to be the editor in chief of a big magazine. So I actually started on the other track. And so I started at the Kansan doing some copywriting and some article writing and some art design and all that fun stuff, layout design, and eventually did that, loved that, but eventually kind of transitioned over to the ad side, and kind of helped manage relations between the editorial side and the ad side, which I absolutely loved. And the Kansan was amazing. I mean, there is so much to learn. There are so many wonderful people that work there. There was a ton of leadership skills that I gained by being a part of that and having a pretty big leadership role by the end. It's just an awesome opportunity, and if anybody can get involved, I highly suggest it. Same with Ad Club if you're at all interested in advertising. I was also involved in the B School and some stuff. I did a minor there, so I tried to be involved there. I also say if you can do any sort of business classes, it's going to help a lot because you're either going to work for a business or own a business someday. And so all of those different things combined have put me in a really good position to be in media, in advertising, doing what I'm doing.
So during your time at KU, what was kind of that spark that made you kind of think advertising might be the path I want to go? Was there a certain class or project or?
Yeah, it was really just honestly, I did an internship at my hometown newspaper and I really liked it, but I realized that doing the day-to-day article writing just wasn't where I wanted to be necessarily. And I did a few more of those kind of article writing classes in the news and info track, and again was like, I just don't feel like this is where my passion is. And so when I realized that I could basically combine writing and being creative and all of that with data and analytics and put it together, that equaled advertising. That's when I was like, all right, we're doing advertising. So switched over and the rest is history.
Great. And I know you've touched on this a little bit, and we take a lot of pride here at the J School about those transferable skills. And it sounds like you've really have transferred a lot of your skills that you've developed over time.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there was so much that I learned at KU. Even one class in particular where we did like focus groups. Have I ever had to do a focus group, lead a focus group in my job? No, there are tons of people that do, but just knowing how to set one up, the questions we ask, what we're looking for consumers to share with us, that type of thing is so valuable. And so I can't really think of a class that hasn't helped at least somehow in what I'm doing now, truthfully.
In that transition to that supervisor role, was that a smooth one for you? I mean, do you like being in charge, or did that take some time to get used to?
I think that anybody that knows me and that you would ask would say that I am just kind of naturally a leader. I mean, I love to observe in a situation, but I can also fall into a leadership role pretty easily. just naturally since I was little. I'm sure my parents would tell you. But I think that has meant that becoming kind of that supervisor role and having a team that works with me is a little more natural. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies, obviously, when you're working with other people, but truthfully, at the Kansan, at one point I had, a staff of 50 people, right? And as their leader, I learned a lot about how to work with others, how to learn, what's their learning style, how do we adapt to make a one-on-one relationship work with every single person that I'm one-on-one with. So yes, it was an adjustment, but it kind of has happened naturally, especially the way that kind of the media roles are set up to progress in a media career path.
And Hallie, what's it been like working with your team the past 2 years? Because it looks like you're working from home right now. I mean, what kind of challenges does that pose, working hybrid or remote?
Yes, pros and cons. I mean, every situation, anytime ever has pros and cons, but certainly work from home has had pros and cons. We've learned, truthfully, and I'm sure a lot of people will tell you this, that we can do our job 100% from home. I am fully functional. I can present a client presentation. I can enact a $5 million media budget from my house. Do I always want to do that? No. What I miss is the in-person collaboration with my clients, with my team. There's nothing like sitting in a room with people and brainstorming and having that energy. So I certainly miss that. And we're slowly but surely kind of going back into group settings where everybody feels comfortable, which has been wonderful. It's nice to have the flexibility of being at home at times, but also being in person when you can.
So Hallie, do you think this hybrid model is here to stay, or do you think it'll eventually go back in person full time, or is there going to be some flexibility?
You know what? I have thought about that a lot, and I talk about that a ton with other people that I work with and that are in the industry. I think it would be really hard for companies to say that you need to be in the office 5 days a week, because it has been proven that we're just as, productive, if not more productive, when we have flexibility to be at home and to do different things like that. So I would imagine there's going to be some sort of hybrid moving forward, especially in advertising. I mean, advertising in general has always been a little fluid as compared to maybe a normal like 9 to 5 finance job or whatever it is, where it's a little more rigid. So I would hope and think that the hybrid model stays, but we'll see.
So did you get a chance to celebrate KU basketball this past week?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I was at Allen Fieldhouse Monday night, and it was just absolutely amazing. Just amazing. I just can't believe it. I woke up Tuesday and I was like, was this a dream? Was this the best dream ever? No, it was real. I'm so happy. My birthday was Friday. Everybody was like, what do you want for your birthday? How's your birthday been? I said, we won a national championship. That was the best birthday gift I could have ever asked for.
Did you make it back for the parade?
No, I did. I said, you know what? I was at Allen Fieldhouse Monday night, and it was electric and amazing. So I did that. I didn't go to the parade, but it looked awesome too.
Yep. Well, Hallie, I know we are a month away from commencement. So if you had any advice to share with this graduating class, I know it's been a challenging year for students the last 2 years. I mean, what advice would you give to our journalism graduates?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first and foremost, like, they're rock stars. I mean, I can't imagine having to finish my college career, do any part of my college career the way they've had to do it. So they're amazing. They're adaptive. That is just wonderful. I'm glad that this class gets to walk down the hill because that is absolutely amazing. I will say, as far as, what's next and how to get to that next step, networking, everybody's going to tell you is important, but it really is. I personally have had so many people that have helped me along the way, that have answered my questions, that have mentored me, that I am an open book with people. If anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, 9 times out of 10, I'll grab coffee or I'll chat with them. I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to ask questions. What's the worst that can happen? They say, I don't want to talk to you, or they just don't answer you. Okay, fine. You tried. There's no stupid question. I think that's good to remember. Big believer in you don't know what you don't know. So you got to ask and figure it out. And I think curiosity is going to be super important. So even if it might take a little while to find the job you're looking for or the role that you're hoping for, keep reading the press, know what's trending, immerse yourself in social media, obviously in a healthy way, to understand what consumers are doing, what they like, what they don't like. What are the brands that you love? What are they doing that you love. Like, try to just be immersed as much as you can in the industry, and then going into the job force will just be a lot easier, and your passion will be very clear when you go into an interview.
Yeah, no, well said. Well, Hallie, I appreciate your time. I don't know. I think you got a VMLY mug. I always like to give a little toast to our grads. And yeah, you've been fascinating to follow since you graduated. It's hard to believe 5 years. Does that seem a long time or a short time?
Both. It feels like yesterday, because I'm telling you, walking down the hill was one of the best days of college, which is, it's crazy that it's the last day and the best day at the same time. But also it feels like I do have a bit of a career under my belt. So I think it's both.
All right. Well, cheers, Hallie. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank
Thanks.
you so much.